Hey guys, this is Chetan,
And this is Abby.
and welcome back to the Unprofessionals. So last night we discussed the NBA Finals. So today we're going to stop by with a little bit of NBA news and get right into the NFL. So this next week we have the NFL draft. So we all know that. But more importantly, we've had a bunch of new hires in the NBA. Starting off, Atlanta re-signs Nate McMillan to a deal that he obviously deserves after what he did with these guys. They were hung out for dead. They were not going to make the playoffs, it seemed, and made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. So Nate McMillan is going to be the full-time head coach in Atlanta. Brad Stevens was moved from the head coaching position to the team president role, and Ikem Adoka, who was a former 76ers assistant as well as a Brooklyn Nets assistant, I believe, will be taking over the position in Boston. In Dallas, Rick Carlisle steps down as the head coach, and Jason Kidd will be the new head coach, as well as having a new GM in Nico Harrison. Indiana moves on 1 year after from Nate Borkran and hires Rick Carlisle, who returns to the franchise after he coached between the years of 2003 and 2007. After 1 year with Stan Van Gundy, the New Orleans Pelicans move on and nab Willie Green, and he will be the eighth coach in franchise history. Orlando parts ways with Steve Clifford and will go with Jamal Mosley, who was a veteran assistant.
Former player.
Was that?
Former player.
And former player. Portland Trailblazers move on from Terry Stotts, who was coaching there for 9 years, brought him to the playoffs many times, including a Western Conference Finals appearance. But they move on to Chauncey Billups, former player, Mr. Big Shot, and assistant head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers.
And NBA champion.
And NBA champion. And finally, the Washington Wizards move on from Scott Brooks and get Wes Unseld Jr. And that wraps it up for everyone that has been newly hired.
Wait, did you mention New Orleans or no?
Yes.
All right, my bad. Continue.
So Abby, what are your thoughts on these new hires, and who are the two most likely to succeed immediately with their franchises?
All right. But before I go, I want to mention that out of the 7 jobs, it's great to see that 7 of them are minorities. And one, which is Indiana, Rick Carlisle, one of the most respected coaches in the NBA. So I would say since the time that I've been watching the NBA, following the NBA, viewing the NBA, this was like the most, I would say, opportunity available for anyone that had the credentials to actually become a head coach in the NBA. And we saw Boston, Washington, Orlando, my Magic, Dallas with J. Kidd, Chauncey Billups, Willie Green. Former players, a lot of them, I think all of them, except for Wes Unseld from Washington, all former players or have pedigree or lineage towards the NBA, which is a great thing to see. Okay, but now let's get into the best jobs, I think. Okay. I think this is pretty simple for best jobs. There's 2 teams that stand out, and that is the Dallas Mavericks, obviously. Jason Kidd, we saw what he did with Giannis, even though his tenure there did not end well, but Giannis always has high praise for Jason Kidd. You have Luka. He's the best player. Well, he's probably the best young player available in all of these teams. Obviously, Dame Lillard for Portland, I would say, is the best player. But right now, if you have to say a 31 or 30-year-old Dame Lillard or a 22 Luka, you're going to take 22 Luka. It's just what it is at this point.
Yep.
But I think the KP thing, listen, we have our opinion on KP, Kristaps Porzingis, and it's all justifiable because the man has not lived up to his contract, to what he's the so-called unicorn. I call him the acorn. That's just my personal preference because I'll gladly call him the unicorn when he plays like Giannis or Kevin Durant or Dirk Nowitzki or Tim Duncan or any of these real power forwards. But until then, he got the name he got to get. He got the name that justifies his game. Simple as that. He is still there. Tim Hardaway, they got to figure out about him because he was their second best player in the playoffs. And that's good for him, but that can't be the case. And obviously, you still have Daisy Redick, who is, I think he's going to be a free agent, so you may not have him. He's also aging. Jalen Brunson's a free agent. They got a lot of moving pieces, and it's basically Luka. But when you have the guy, you can move forward. And you're in Dallas, which is a marquee location. So I feel they're going to be a playoff team regardless. So they will be a successful team going forward. Now, the second team, obviously, this team fell off the cliff this season, but they were in the conference finals multiple times in the past 2-3 years. The Boston Celtics, where, listen, they had their up and downs. Brad Stevens goes to front office. Danny Ainge dips. But you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown still on your roster. You still have Marcus Smart. You traded for, Al Horford, right? They got Al Horford. Yeah, they traded for Al Horford. Yeah. They traded away Kemba Walker, so they don't have a point guard necessarily right now. We don't know what they're going to do there. So that's something that they have to address. But they got better in terms of the front court. They got worse in the backcourt. Lonzo Ball's out there. Then there's shooters out there. Chris Paul's potentially out there. There's a cup Dame Lillard. We don't know yet, but he's obviously not a free agent.
DeJounte Murray.
DeJounte Murray could be out there. There's a lot of players that are out there that could play that point. They don't really need a scoring point guard because, listen, you got Tatum, and you got Brown, you got Marcus Smart, you got if you re-sign Evan Fournier. So scoring really won't be their issue from my point of view.
That's why I mentioned DeJounte Murray.
DeJounte Murray can score, but he is a phenomenal defender. And that's
he's
why
tall, he's lanky. He gives you everything that they need. If San Antonio looks to move on from him, I would make a trade for him.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't because he's the best player they got. He's the best young player they got. Him, Keldon Johnson, and Derek White. Those are the three pieces. DeMar DeRozan, he's still a star-level player, but he is on the decline because of his age and the contract that he's going to be seeking. But those are the two teams for the best job. Now let's get to – before I give it to you, I'll just give my two worst jobs, and then you can go through your two. The two worst jobs. One is clear as day. I think I'm going to surprise you with the second one. But the first one is clear as day. That is the Washington Wizards because I love Westbrook. I love Bradley Beal, Rui Hachimura, David Bertans, Lopez, the rookie Avdia who got hurt. I hope speedy recovery for him. Scott Brooks is gone. I don't think Westbrook will be on this team next year. We're hearing rumors about the Lakers. We don't know where he could go. But listen, man, they fought and they got the 8th seed. They made the play-in. Then they got dogged by Philly. But if Westbrook dips, I assume Bradley Beal will be the next piece. So whoever comes into this, well, I mean, we know who the head coach is now, but I don't think they have a real chance to be successful in the near future, even though you have a superstar level player in Bradley Beal and one of the greatest point guards of all time in Westbrook. But it's just, Together they got to the 8th. Yes, COVID happened. A lot of injuries happened. Thomas Bryant got hurt. They had a lot of injuries. But I still don't think they're going to be close to Philly, Milwaukee, Brooklyn. New York could make moves. Atlanta. So Boston, as we just mentioned. So you're already talking Miami, Indiana, them, maybe Chicago Bulls. You're basically fighting for a 6 through 10 spot. And I don't think that favors them at all. Now, the second team, this is a team I think that may shock you because on paper, you would think this is a great job to have. I don't see it that way. That is the New Orleans Pelicans because you have Zion, but for how long? Second year done, and we're already hearing shit that he may want out. Brandon Ingram, you have him. You signed him, though. Okay, that's good. But guess what? You may lose Lonzo now. Lonzo seems like you don't want to keep him. I don't know why. And Josh Hart has already spoken about how he's not feeling the most respected there. You already fired 2 coaches in back-to-back years. So now the head coach, Willie Green, all respect to him, he doesn't come in with pedigree in terms of a coach. So from what I've seen, if they suck again, oh, Willie Green deuces. But David Griffin, he's the one that should be on the hot seat right now because besides riding LeBron James' dick, he has done nothing in the NBA. It's just straight up like that. He rode LeBron and Kyrie, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith all the way to the finals. So he's on the hot seat. I would not put Willie Green on the hot seat. I doubt they would fire Willie Green before they fire David Griffin because that's two coaches, one strike, two strike. You ain't getting to three, bro. I don't care who you are. You're not R.C. Bruford. You're not Sam Presti. You're not any of these GMs. You have proved nothing besides being with LeBron James. So they have to win now. I don't think they will. The Warriors are going to be back. We all know this. God, knock on wood, Klay Thompson, finally back. Please, Klay Thompson. We miss the Splash Brothers. It's been too long. We hated watching you guys succeed, obviously, when you had Kevin Durant, but don't think we hated watching you guys because you guys are the Splash Brothers for a reason. Memphis Grizzlies are only going to improve. Sacramento, De'Aaron Fox, they still got them. There are going to be teams improving. So I think New Orleans is the second worst job out of all the seven. And no, my Orlando Magic are not because my Orlando Magic don't have what the New Orleans Pelicans. Because I'm pretty sure that's the team people are going to point at too. They're thinking I'm a homer. I'm not going to pick the Magic because that's your team, blah, blah, blah. No, the difference because my team doesn't have expectations like the Pelicans do, like the Wizards somewhat do. We don't have a Bradley Beal, a Westbrook, a Zion, or even a Brandon Ingram. So Mosley, respect to him. All I hear is great things. Luka loves him. I think he will have this team ready to go going forward. Obviously, the draft is next week. We have the 5th pick. We have the 8th pick, the Chicago Bulls pick, by the way. But still, just have to throw that in there. So hopefully we can make some of our own magic because the Milwaukee Bucks won when they drafted Giannis. The Atlanta Hawks were relevant because they drafted Trae Young. The Dallas Mavericks went from Dirk to Luka because they drafted Luka. You have to draft the right pieces. Chetan, who are your 2 best jobs and your 2 worst jobs?
I mean, you just mentioned one of them. I was going to say, because I want to stray away from your 2 answers, Boston is, I agree on Boston. 100% that you have 2 of the best young talents out there in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. You don't break it up until it's like, what's the best way to say it? You don't break them up until you actually know that they have to be broken up. It's what they did with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid for so long is they try to make it work and make it work and make it work until they can't make it work no more.
Oh, I truly hope the Orlando Magic are on the phone with the Boston Celtics right now, begging, crying for Jaylen Brown. Trust me.
You can hope for that all you want.
Or the Portland Trailblazers should be on the same call.
Yeah. Well, someone should be on that call with Boston if Boston is wanting to move on from Jaylen Brown or if Jaylen Brown wants to move on from the Celtics. But regardless, I think that's one of the better jobs because even if you trade Jaylen Brown, you're getting a pretty good package back. You're getting great young talent. That could be a Damian Lillard for Jaylen Brown and picks kind of move or something like that. So Boston, excellent job. I think a job that's attractive is the Orlando Magic. I think Jamal Mosley, 1, will do a great job. And 2 is, you just said it, they have 0 expectations. I understand, like, you who you're competing with for the 6 to 10 seed, right? But we saw Indiana's in that same situation where they had just hired a new head coach. Yes, it's Rick Carlisle, who is a professional. He's been there, done that, right? But what happens if Sabonis is unhappy halfway through the season?
Indiana don't got Dirk Nowitzki.
And
I'm going to throw that out there.
Right, but like, say Sabonis is unhappy. And Sabonis also has an injury history. Karis LeVert also has an injury history. It's
TJ Warren,
Malcolm
Brogdon, all in Miles Turner, all everyone. Injury history.
Right, so what it as good as they can be, they can be as bad. Right? So that, hey, if Orlando can stay healthy and make the right picks, you still got Markelle Fultz coming back. You got Cole Anthony. Jonathan Isaac,
RJ Hampton,
R.J. Hampton that came in the trade.
Obamba. We drafted him for a reason.
Gary
Chuma
Harris,
Okiki,
Chuma Okeke. You have
Terrence Ross.
all this young talent, and you have zero expectations. And we just talked about Washington as one of the worst landing spots because if Westbrook's out, Bradley Beal's probably out, right? So what are you putting out there? You're putting out there Thomas Bryant, who, hey, if someone wants to trade for a center that protects the paint, I would explore that trade if I was Washington. If you're trading away two of your best players, you might as well break up the house and rebuild with Roy Hachimura and Danny Avdia and all those guys. Right? So that's two teams that made the play-in tournament out. Right? So you're competing with what now? You're competing with Chicago, who now have two stars with Zach LaVine and Vucevic. And who else? Right? I think Orlando is in a great spot because, hey, if they can stay healthy, the only people they're competing against is going to be their health. Because two of the teams that made the playoffs are out. Right? And after that, I would say the two worst jobs, I think I'm going to surprise you with this one is, I think Dallas is one of them. I understand you have Luka, right? But what you're putting a young head coach in a position, well, not a young head coach, but a fairly what's the correct word?
I wouldn't call him young or inexperienced because he took Brooklyn to the playoffs, took Milwaukee to the playoffs.
Yeah, I wouldn't say either one of those, but
I understand. It's kind of weird. He is.
But you're putting a coach that, as knowledgeable as he is, he's never had to deal with a disgruntled superstar or quote unquote superstar, because that's what KP thinks he is at this moment.
Oh yeah. He's not a superstar. Not.
Right. So you're going against a quote unquote disgruntled superstar. Possibly you lose your second best player because you might not be able to pay him. And you're going to basically build around Luka until this contract, until you figure out a way, one amnesty clause, KP or something like that.
Amnesty clause. Oh, that's beautiful.
Right. So and on top of that, it's just like KP's injury history is there. Luka's injury history is there. It's just, it kind of reminds me of, who would it be? I think early career LeBron, where they try to build around him. They had Zydrunas Ilgauskas, they had Anderson Varejao, but when they were supposed to make a trade for like a guy like an Amari Stoudemire, they never been able to do that. They cannot pull that off, and that's why he left for Miami. I think we're seeing the early remnants of that. I think as great as Luka is gonna be, I don't what the expectation for Dallas is and what they will be. I think there's going to be a large gap between there.
So you said best jobs. What were your two again?
Boston and Orlando.
Oh! You put Orlando in. Okay, and then where's you put Dallas and
what? It's going to be Washington. Oh no, I said Washington. Yes. Right. Yeah, Dallas and Washington. I was going to explain Washington. You already explained Washington as being as one of the bad jobs, and I agree there. But
I put Indiana at like right there in the middle. I don't know. They can go either way. They're in a limbo situation. With the Blazers, it's all on Dame staying.
I think the Blazers, their entire future rides on next week.
Yeah, in my opinion, if Dame Lillard's not traded by next week, he's not getting traded.
If he's not,
if they're going to make a power move, it would also have to be by Thursday. Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. And so they're saying CJ McCollum is not in trade talks. Well, then what does that leave you with? You have Powell, the free agent. You want to keep him. That's what all the reports say.
Yeah.
You have Covington. Zach Collins is hurt again, so he's not any longer a piece you value. You have Nurkic. I think he has 1 year left.
Yep.
Jeffrey Simmons is your piece. Robert Covington.
And then I think Nazir Little.
That's not. I'm not even gonna. No disrespect, but he has not proven anything to be a piece of a trade. And
Yeah.
whatever draft picks you possess.
And then, yeah,
If you throw CJ McCollum in there, I think then you can. They gotta go get Jaylen Brown. There is no or Kawhi Leonard. That's it. There's no other guys out there. You're not getting. I don't think you're getting Bradley Beal.
Yeah, unless you're putting CJ and Anthony Simons in a deal, you're not getting Bradley Beal.
I would make CJ McCollum my point guard in Boston and go get and trade Jaylen Brown. So that way it works for both teams. You get a bigger version of Kemba Walker in Boston and younger, while the Portland Trailblazers get a wing that's actually offensively gifted. No disrespect to Robert Covington, but he is a shooter and defender. Jaylen Brown, he got the bag, and he's continuing to get better. Jaylen Brown would, in my opinion, if you got Jaylen Brown in Portland, Dame Lillard would now be like, okay, I'm happy now. We're getting somewhere. We're not done yet, but now we're getting somewhere with this.
Yeah, and I think the next move obviously would be getting Nurk out of there.
Listen,
I think that Nurkic Damian Lillard pick and roll experiment is over. I love Nurkic. I love his story. His grandmother died from COVID, and he put up 20 and 20 in that play-in tournament against the Memphis Grizzlies. Like, I have full respect for Nurkic, but I think if anyone's gonna stay on that team, it's got to be one Damian Lillard. If Damian Lillard's got to stay, everyone else has to go. It's literally one of those things where I think they did it with Detroit Pistons back in the Isaiah Thomas days, where they had a third guy, and they're like, we just have to trade him because this other guy can make us better and win us. And they won 2 championships after they traded that guy. It's one of those things.
It's going to be. We're only 2 days into this because the Milwaukee Bucks won Tuesday. Today was supposed to be Game 7, but now all we got is draft and speculation, and then free agency. This is what we got going forward. But now I think we covered a lot for the NBA. When the NBA is now in the off season, a league that is about to leave the off season and enter the season. Basically, I would say within 2 weeks now. Actually, for me, when training camp begins, you have entered the season.
So it's a week.
You're basically
6
practicing
days.
now.
I think we got 6 days, the 28th.
Yeah, okay. But 2 teams reported today in person. They came because they're playing the Hall of Fame game. Those are the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, they're in Oxnard, California. That's where they do it. They do this every year. But I think so let's start off with the Dallas Cowboys. Training camp preview, we're going to preview 2 teams every episode going forward. So for this episode, we have the Cowboys and the Steelers. We begin with the Cowboys. The biggest takeaway I got from this, before I don't even have to go into the roster or anything about them, their record, their future, etc. When Jerry Jones was up there in his interview, he spoke as if, knock on wood, I hope his health is good. You don't want to think about any of this stuff. But the way he was talking, it seemed like something's going on or whatever, or he just fears his own mortality. That, listen, I'm 70, I think he's 78, right?
78.
78. So, he's up there. He's up there. You don't ever want to speak about this. You never even want to mention this, but it is what it is. That's just the way he was talking, that he does not know how much longer he has to win the Super Bowl. So he would give up anything to actually win it. And he says that, but he's not going to do it. He's not going to relinquish every single power and go get himself a Schneider from the Seattle Seahawks. He's not going to go get someone of that, like, he's not going to get a GM/VP or whatever you want to call them and give them the full control and let him lay back. Because it's just not about, he's not about that. He want to talk to the media. He want to be in the press conferences. His press conference was the first thing that we saw in the Dallas Cowboys 2021 training camp season, his press conference. What other owner have we seen? We saw Mike Tomlin for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know why? He's the head freaking coach. That's who we saw. That's the first Pittsburgh Steelers thing I saw this year for the 2021 season. Mike Tomlin addressing the media about his team this season. For the Cowboys, we saw Jerry Jones. And that's the thing. I don't know why his kids, I don't know, maybe his kids have told him this. His son, Stephen Jones, who's basically his partner in the draft evaluations or free agency or etc. But listen, I felt kind of bad for him, even though obviously a man's a billionaire. He's achieved whatever he wanted out of life. But still, he knows or feels. It's been 1995, the year I was born. Since then, they have not come close. They've made the playoffs 10 times. They've won a playoff game 4 times. That's pathetic. For the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, please. Chetan, your thoughts?
I mean, with the Dallas Cowboys, it's just. I mean, as a Giants fan,
I rank Dallas maybe 3rd, even 4th in the division.
I feel completely the same way, and you already know. I've already said it. If they go 0-17, I don't care.
Oh yeah, I'm not. Yeah, obviously that's not happening. But yeah,
right. But in terms of just overall, the Cowboys, have they done enough? Right. We keep talking about everyone keeps talking about the Cowboys as, it's always we'll get them next year, right? But you re-signed Dak Prescott, who deserves all the money in the world because we saw what that offense is without him and what it is with him, right? But yeah, and then you fire Mike Nolan, hired Dan Quinn. You bring in a guy like Keanu Neal. But your guys like Leighton Vander Esch, always hurt. Is great of a middle linebacker he is. He's always hurt. Sean Lee retires. So you draft Micah Parsons to fill that void. And then you drafted 6 straight defensive players. I understand you're addressing a need, but you're putting all young guys out there in your defense and hoping that, a new defensive scheme and a new defensive coordinator can change everything. Right? If Dan Quinn can do that, 1, he deserves the bag, and 2, he's getting a head coaching job somewhere after that. Right? So it's like, I think this is what's interesting about the Cowboys is they want to win so bad that I think you're right at this point is Jerry Jones can't be part of the day-to-day activities every day like he is right now. When Al Davis was doing it for the Raiders is because he understood, the concepts. He understood the defensive schemes. He understood the offensive schemes. And that's why they succeeded in the 70s and 80s. But with Dallas, it's the same old story as, you let go of Jimmy Johnson because Jerry Jones was a little jealous that Jimmy Johnson was getting all this attention. Right? And then it looks like I hate to say it, but it's bitten him in the ass so many times that as a Giants fan, I just don't care anymore. Great. I want to hear it. It's Dallas is going to the Super Bowl this year. First round knockout. Can't win a playoff game. Can't do this, can't do that. And I don't see it being any different this year. If they make the playoffs, they exceeded my expectations. That's all I got to say about the Dallas Cowboys at this point.
Well, then we get to the other team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And to be honest, I expect almost the same thing. I do expect Ben to be way better. I really felt a year away from that injury. He was learning on the job, and now he's a whole 2 years into it. Najee Harris, we are the presidents of the Najee Harris fan club. We spoke that shit into existence. He is a Pittsburgh Steeler. He belongs with them. He is a monster. He is only going to help them. But the offensive line did not get better. Their skill position players are still really good. The defense, you lost Bud Dupree. You just signed Melvin Ingram. So that's a very good value pickup. You get Devin Bush back. So the defense should be very good. The offense should be solid to above average. But even with that said, they're not better than Baltimore, in my opinion. Now comes, on paper, are they better than Cleveland? No. But can they win more games than Cleveland? Yes. But still, you're still in a 2 to 3 way. You're in that order.
You're in a dogfight.
Especially in the AFC, where you have Kansas City. You have the Chargers getting better. Then you get to Buffalo Bills. New England, better with all their players coming back on defense and the additions offensively. And Cam pissed off. And Bill Belichick pissed off. And now Miami, they still have a really good team. Except we don't know about the quarterback position. And then we get to the Titans and the Colts. Yeah, two very good teams. Besides that, nothing else in that division. And then the final division is
the Aaron Rodgers watch.
And I'm not going to get there because that's complete speculation.
I mean, everything we're doing is speculation. So
that's true. That's true. If that happens, then they're definitely out of it. But still, and then we get to this division where I think we all agree Baltimore will make it as a division winner or a wild card. Regardless, they only improved. And then you have Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Could all three make the playoffs? Yes. But actually, yeah. So I would say Pittsburgh is in a better position than Dallas. They have a better team than Dallas. It's all on Ben. Is he still Ben? Decent, above average, good, great, Pro Bowler. What is he? Najee Harris being a monster, which we think he will be. You have Juju. You got him back. You got Claypool in year 2. You got
Deontay Johnson.
You got James Washington. You got Eric Ebron. You still got a decent O-line. Not David DeCastro is a huge blow. So I don't know. Charlie Villanueva went to your rival Ravens. So that O-line, listen, that's the thing that scares me.
I think last year, you know, their offensive line was not great, right? And it was all masked by, you know, Ben getting the ball out so quickly in all these quick draws and these screenplays, and you know, he was getting the ball out quicker than anyone in the league was. And you saw it when he wasn't getting the ball out, he was getting hit, you know, and that's when, you know, that 11-0 was not really 11-0. You know, they got, I hate to say it, but they got lucky, and luck plays so much in the NFL. And I think as long as Ben is getting the ball out quickly and his wide receivers are not dropping the ball, you know, and you got Najee Harris, who's an excellent pass catcher, right? We've never talked about running backs being excellent pass catchers coming out of the draft, but he might catch passes as well as he runs the ball. So, like, all of that plays a factor into this. But at the end of the day, I still feel like they're the third best team in this division. Like, there's nothing telling me that Baltimore is not going to win this division, that Cleveland's not going to win this division. And this defense, it only got slightly worse than it was last year because Bud Dupree, phenomenal pass rusher. And when everyone is healthy, we saw what they can be. They also masked all the issues that was going on the Steelers' offensive end. But now you have a veteran in Melvin Ingram. You have a veteran in Cam Hayward. It's not the same as, you know, when you're throwing out all the young guys out there. You know, you still got T.J. Watt. You still got Devin Bush. You got Minka Fitzpatrick. You still have all those guys, but I don't think it's gonna look the same as last year, is what I'm saying. Can they still make the playoffs? Yes. Do I expect them to make the playoffs? Surprisingly, I'm gonna say I don't think they make the playoffs. They'll be over 500, but I don't think they'll make the playoffs.
Well, I think what we're both saying is neither of these two teams should be playing in February.
Yeah.
I think that much we both can say. And now we're going to get into our final topic, which is for the NFL. This was pretty interesting because it dropped today, where COVID is still in the world, it's still affecting us. It's actually getting somewhat coming back, if you want to say that. But
Fair to say.
we've learned a lot of information. Hopefully, it'll never be what it was last year. But in terms of the NFL, two things. One, potentially, if there is a COVID breakout in an organization, a team, and they cannot find a way to reschedule a game, they may have to forfeit, which is pretty interesting because that can definitely affect a multitude of situations, scenarios for teams, the playoffs, home field advantage, et cetera, et cetera. But the second thing that came out was DeAndre Hopkins thinking that he really may retire or really contemplate what is he doing in the NFL because he may have to take a vaccine that he does not agree with, that he feels he doesn't have to take. And my opinion on this is everyone has their own opinion on whether to take the vaccine or not. But in this situation, just as a comment, if DeAndre Hopkins feels how he does, he completely had the right to. The only thing I have to say is, though, is if something does happen where he's in the protocol or he gets it, God forbid, or he's in close contact tracing, whatever, he will have to deal with the consequences. And also, if let's say somehow he hypothetically, if him being in close contact with someone puts Kyler Murray, because he is the most important player for that team, in the COVID protocol, then he is going to have to live with it and live with the consequences. And that's about it because you can't tell me whether to take the vaccine or not. But you can tell me as my employer, if you do this, you could suffer consequences. And then it's my decision after that. So that's my take on this. And I feel DeAndre Hopkins, he's a man. He's a grown man. He's a professional. It's his choice. LeBron James, we saw it in the NBA. We never knew until basically he finally said it that he did take the vaccine, that he will keep that in-house because that is honestly nobody's business besides his significant others, his kids, his family members, and whoever else he feels or deems necessary to know that information.
I mean, I'm looking at the numbers right now. According to Judy Batista of the NFL Network, more than 78% of players league wide have had at least one shot, and 14 clubs have at least 85% of players vaccinated. Palisaro reported that all 32 teams have at least 50% vaccination rate among players. So it's not, I mean, fully understand DeAndre Hopkins' side of this. You know, he's a grown man. We can't tell a grown man what a grown man can do. Right? There was the same situation last year where they're like, "Yeah, are you really telling us to quarantine and not go out when we're in other cities and this and that?" So it's not, yeah, you can't control what DeAndre Hopkins does, but I think he needs to fully understand that if he puts his team at risk, yeah, he's got to live with that situation. If they missed the game by, if they missed the playoffs by one game and it was a game that they had to forfeit and it's because he's in protocol, I don't know. Like, if I was him, I don't know how I'd feel about that. I'd be like, because you miss a playoff check.
But think about it. Think about this, because Chris Paul, just to try to make a comp here, Chris Paul came in contact with somebody. He took the vaccine.
Yeah.
He still couldn't play. So what does this really? Because if you get it, you can still give it to someone. All the vaccine does is it reduces your symptoms. If you get it, you can still give it to anybody. So I don't understand why that truly matters. Unless if you have something that I'm not aware of, I'll gladly listen. Because Chris Paul was vaccinated, he got it. He missed two pivotal Western Conference Final games. So,
but what's curious about this is like having to forfeit a game instead of, because
well, yeah, first you have to be able to reschedule. They give you that. And if you can't, think about it. Listen, if you were able to make a whole season without any forfeits last year, there's no excuse for that not to happen this year.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like if you could make it work last year, I don't see why it should be an issue this year.
Yeah, when it was actually crazy out there.
It was so bad that they thought about putting in that 18th week. Yeah.
Yeah. That was an actual consideration. Yeah.
And now you're saying, oh, because we had this extra game, we can't do the same thing we did last year. That's one, hard to believe, and two, it's just
they were playing Wednesday games, bro. They were playing Tuesday games, bro. I don't want to hear. They're playing double headers on a Monday, so they found a way to reschedule. I think if one team, if they can reschedule, they'll make it happen. They're not gonna. I see where they're saying it. I just don't think it'll ever happen because then you're gonna have teams being like, "Oh my god," you may have lawsuits or God knows what conspiracy theories going on, especially depending on who. Let's say the New England, for example, has a forfeit. And we've already seen what happened with New England with the whole Deflategate shit. Those conspiracy theories will go crazy.
Yeah, I think a lot of things that they say don't make sense. It's easy to work. We've seen it work out. So I don't see why they all of a sudden be like, yeah, you might have to forfeit a game if we can't reschedule. Like,
I guess it's maybe like a threat so they, take it seriously.
But haven't they taken it seriously enough? I just read off those stats where 14 of the 14 teams have had at least 85% of their players vaccinated. And 78% of all players in the NFL have had at least one shot. You're still 22% of people don't. Of players don't. Like, you've done your part, and these players have done their part to play in this game. And if some players don't want to get vaccinated, I don't see why the NFL has to be all of a sudden be like, hey, we need you to take this shot. If something happens, your team has to forfeit.
I think it's only going to be a forfeit if they have with the Baltimore Ravens situation where they basically have 15 players missing the game. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
Exactly. It's just like now it's like, but you've had these rules put in place where it's got to be, what was it? The 2020 rules were exactly 2 negative tests 24 hours apart, and a non-vaccinated player who tested positive remains in the protocol for 10 days. Right? So you're telling me for example, if DeAndre Hopkins is out, but Kyler Murray is vaccinated, you're telling me on a Sunday game, if they report this on a Wednesday, he's got to take a negative test on a Thursday and a Friday. He will be able to play on a Sunday. Essentially, you're only missing one player.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's the exception, not one. It's something crazy happens, like the Titans or the Ravens, and then maybe. But I think we both agree here. It's a personal decision. It's none of your business, to be honest, because it's not a rule technique. It's not weed, where weed is banned. There's nothing like vaccine is mandatory because this is a unique situation for the whole world.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way we can sum this up because that's what we had today. The NBA is drafts next week, so that's going to be the biggest coverage that we have. NFL is right. Training camps begin next week. So the NBA finals just ended, but not to worry because baseball is in its prime right now. NFL is coming back, and the NBA offseason is about to get underway.
All right, guys. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.